When we use words like black, white, or race, we are not being scientific. We are not being clear. We are looking at the color of the skin instead of looking at their biology. But scientists use words like European, African, or Asian to refer to genetic ancestry, which is where that person's ancestral background is coming from. And that may help us to understand the genetic basis of some diseases.
Take a big breath. Again. So asthma is an inflammatory disorder of the airways, the lungs. And it's the most common chronic disorder of children.
Just breathing normal.
What do you feel? What is an asthma attack to you?
Like, sometimes I'm really scared because I feel dizzy, I feel short of breath, I feel like I'm going to pass out.
Okay. Asthma prevalence in the United States varies tremendously by race and ethnicity.
Take a big breath in and blow.
Mexican Americans have the lowest prevalence and lowest mortality from asthma. Caucasians, African Americans are intermediate, and the population in the United States with the highest prevalence, the highest severity, the highest death rates are Puerto Ricans. Are you taking your medications?
Yes.
What are you taking?
I'm taking my Cuvor, which is...
These differences have been known for a long time, but I hypothesize that the difference in asthma prevalence and severity were due to genetic differences, and ancestry might help to explain those differences.
When you take people who have ancestry from Europe or from Asia or from Africa, and you look at their genome, you will find differences as a result of human history. Human genetic variation is a result of groups that have lived isolated from each other for a very long time. So when you look at people from continental Africa, for example, they have had to adapt to different environments. And you will be able to see certain genetic characteristics that you may not necessarily see at the same frequency when you look at people who predominantly have lived most in Asia or in Europe. So by sequencing these geographically separated populations, we were able to create a reference. So now you give me your blood.
Beautiful.
And I'm able to now compare your DNA
That didn't hurt, did it?
No.
to that reference.
So once I receive the tube of blood from the clinic, we will spin it down. And once we spin it down, we'll see 3 layers. And in those layers, the first layer is going to be a plasma layer. We extract the plasma first. And then you'll take your red cells and your white cells. And from that, you will rupture all your red cells. And then all your white cells will be intact. The white cells is what we're interested in, and that has all of your DNA.
The DNA that Celeste extracts ends up going onto what we call a gene chip, which is designed to probe very specific parts of the genome. And these are regions that we know have variation between different people from different parts of the world. Here we've actually taken the information from the gene chip for a Puerto Rican individual, and we've been able to estimate ancestry across the entire genome. And here's a representation of all the chromosomes from 1 to 22. And what you can see is that at each position, this individual has European, Native American, or Sub-Saharan African ancestry. And when we compare a large number of individuals, we can see whether there's a difference in the ancestry patterns between people with asthma and people who don't have asthma. And in fact, what we found is that there's a region on chromosome 18 where we see that people with asthma tend to have more Native American ancestry and less European ancestry.
Can you explain these lines?
It's the same.
We use Ancestry right now because it gives us a clue as to where to find the gene that's involved in the pathogenesis of asthma. So that suggests that it's being driven by at least one of these two genes.
Right. Mapping.
When we know those specific genes, we can genetically test each individual and determine what their risk factor is at a given region of the genome, and forget about this notion of race and ethnicity.
Asian, European, African,
And that's a significant difference.
or Hispanic. Those are all shorthands that will go away with time. When we actually know what genes individuals carry, then we can look at the whole genome in a systematic manner and see where we find things that may be related to disease or health.
Take a big breath.
And once we're able to do that, then race is completely irrelevant.